Here's the thing about the left that it really is, when I was joking in the opening that as bad, as chaotic as Republican governance has been at the opening of the Trump administration, it's not just Trump's fault. I mean, Trump brings the chaos, but it is the GOP Congress that has brought the betrayal and cowardice and dishonesty and failure. They're the ones who have brought that stuff. And Trump, a more masterful president, a more experienced president, a more controlled president might have got them into line, maybe would have gotten them into line, would have gotten something out of them. But that's not happening. But for all that, the Democrats are so bad. They are, Roger Simon, my pal Roger Simon over at PJ Media, has a great summary of all the scandals that are being unleashed on the Democrats. I mean, it's just incredible. The unmasking scandal, which all of the stuff is being buried in the press. It now turns out, I'm reading, Roger, it now turns out that a record number of unmaskings revealing U.S. citizens' identities during foreign intelligence surveillance by the Obama administration, well over 100, took place during and after the election. Most of these unmaskings seem to have been illegal and were of people connected to Trump. And we know that Obama did this because of his IRS corruption. We know that he used the power of the federal government to destroy and to mess with our election. We know that the worst assault on our election rights came from Obama in the White House. Many of these unmaskings appear to have been instigated by Samantha Power, who was the UN ambassador and had no business doing anything. And that's another thing. This collusion story. Remember a couple of weeks ago, the Donald Trump Jr. meeting and what a big deal that was going to be? And oh my gosh, we finally got... You notice how that's disappeared? Partly that was Donald Trump Jr. going in and saying that nothing happened, but partly it was because one of the guys at this meeting seems to have been connected with that Fusion GPS thing. And the Fusion GPS is an organization that you hire to get dirt on your opponents. It's like a freelance organization of former journalists that you hire to get dirt on your opponents. And some of the dirt they got was they hired this ex-British spy. I think he had some spy name like Christopher Steele or something like that. He actually sounded like a James Bond character. And he got all that stuff on Donald Trump, which now seems to have been wrong. The stuff about the prostitutes, urinating on him in Moscow, all this crazy stuff. And that seems to have been paid for by the Hillary campaign, or at least someone connected to the Hillary campaign. And now it seems that Fusion GPS was connected to Putin. So it's like the Putin collusion story is kind of blowing up on their faces. And then there is this guy, Imran Awan. Well, let's get the story from the mainstream media. Here's how the mainstream media is reporting the story.
All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please disperse. Nothing to see here, please.
All right. They're just not covering. They're not covering the story, except the New York Times covers the story. Trump fuels intrigue surrounding a former IT worker's arrest. I mean, this is a huge story, but we don't know what it is yet. This guy, this family of IT workers in Congress, right? They started investigating them for double billing or something like this. They arrested one of them. The wife escaped with cash. The husband was about to escape. This guy, Imran Awan, was about to escape. They busted him for bank fraud as he was trying to get away. Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been not only protecting these people, everybody else fired them. These are the guys who are working in the computers, right? And they're working with national security stuff, big stuff. I mean, this is not like, just the regular old files. They're working with actual stuff from that. Let me see if I can just find where this guy was. He had everything. The guy was looking at really serious classified stuff. Wasserman Schultz is still paying him after he's been exposed. The Capitol Police got a hold of one of her computers, and when she was a congresswoman, she was yelling. She was holding a meeting on funding the Capitol Police, and she threatens the guy, if you don't give me back my computer, we're going to shut down your funding. Here's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This is a few months ago.
If a member loses equipment, yes, and it is found by the Capitol Police or your staff, and it is identified as that member's equipment, and the member is not associated with any case, and that is their equipment, it is supposed to be returned, yes or no?
Depends on the circumstances. And if the circumstances
I don't understand how that's possible. Members' equipment is members' equipment. It is not Under my understanding, the Capitol Police is not able to confiscate members' equipment when the member is not under investigation. It is their equipment, and it's supposed to be returned.
Well, I think there's extenuating circumstances in this case, and I think that, you know, working through my counsel and you know, the necessary personnel, if that in fact is the case, and with the permission of through the investigation, then we'll return the equipment. But until that's accomplished, I can't return the equipment.
I think you're violating the rules when you conduct your business that way, and should expect that there would be consequences.
So there will be consequences. She's threatening this guy, and this is at a hearing controlling his funding. She is still a congresswoman. She was the former head of the DNC. That's what I was trying to say. This guy had electronic files of members of the House Intelligence and Foreign Affairs Committees. I mean, I don't want to go down the conspiracy route, but it sounds very much as if she were being blackmailed, as if this guy had something on the DNC and she was paying him. She's still paying him as they're arresting him. So all this stuff, and one last, we'll get to Michael Knowles in just a second, but one last scandal is this stuff that's going on in Venezuela, right? Venezuela is on the brink of civil war, and of course we're barely covering it, but this is the legacy of Hugo Chavez. Now they've got the strongman, his inheritor, Maduro, is about to is about to stack Congress so he can basically take away their rights, destroy the Constitution. People are rioting, people are complaining. Mary Anastasia O'Grady, who's like the only person at the Wall Street Journal, only person in America who's covering this, points out that this is all engineered by the Castro regime in Cuba. And she says that one of the things they've done is they've taken over the Venezuelan office that issues national identity cards and passports. This is the Castro intelligence coup carried out with Hugo Chavez's permission. So they are now, Cuba is now deciding who has a passport in Venezuela. And who are they giving it to? They're giving it to Islamic extremists. They get Venezuelan passports, so they have false cover when they're crossing the borders. And of course, anyone who supports the regime will be able to go in and vote, and people who don't support the regime will not be able to go in and vote. And I just wanted to remind you that this was Obama and Hillary Clinton's policy of engaging with these people that gave them legitimacy to this absolute horror of a regime in Cuba that is working against our interests in Venezuela and against the interests of freedom in Venezuela. And that, too, is the Democrats. So all I'm saying is, yes, it's chaos in Washington. It is absolute chaos in Washington. But we better hope they get it fixed, because there is no place else to go. There is no other party to turn to. And if the Democrats were in power right now, things would be a lot worse. No